Hey, Andrew, good morning. How are
Good
you?
morning, Kate. This is a very early start to talk about pluralism.
It is. It happens 24 hours a day.
Oh, I thought pluralism was only a 9 to 5 thing. I
No,
thought
no,
after
no.
after 5 o'clock you could go back to a single model, and that was fine.
No, it happens at any time without warning. So we've got a conference coming up, and I wanted to, just have a chat with you about, I guess, how have you experienced our conferences before, and how are you feeling about this one?
Well, I'm really looking forward to this one. I mean, in part because I've been on the conference organising committee, so I've seen the programme, and it looks a really good programme. But in part because I just love them. Like, we all know how grim last year was, and for me personally, it was quite grim at times as well because of things that had happened. And one of my highlights, and this is going to sound really cheesy, but it is actually true. One of my professional highlights was last year's conference, pluralism conference. And I went to several conferences last year, but there were, I don't know, was it 700-800 people online, over the course of the conference, and amazing presentations, and it felt really connected. And I kind of thought there was the virtual pub at the end of it, obviously not during it, but at the end of it, and it was like a Sunday evening, and there was still like 200 people connected. And I thought, well, something has happened, because most often, and I speak for myself too, most often you just want to get out at the end of a conference and go and wash up or do something. The fact that people were still there, nearly 200 people were still there, so it was great. So I really enjoyed that. And the ones before, the one in Roehampton, I really enjoyed. The very first one in Abertay, I couldn't go because I'd had some surgery and I had to pull out at the last minute. But I just love the feel of them. It just feels really connected, and people are just genuinely interested. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Brilliant. Do you know what I really like about it is the fact you have a lot of practitioners, you have students, and you have researchers and academics. Am I allowed to announce your like esteemed academics,
Yeah,
Andrew?
steamed in my own world. Yeah, yeah.
All in the same room, all having conversations. And I think, it's that dialogue, I think, that's really important. That's really helpful for us.
Yeah, I think so. It's not a hierarchical thing. We're not using titles at the event. We're practitioners, we're researchers, we're people who are interested. And what I also like about it, I mean, I love things like the ACP's research conference and things, but it is what it is. It's a research conference, and I happen to be interested in research, but I've always seen myself as practitioner first, and kind of a practitioner researcher, if you like, not a researcher practitioner. And what I really like about it, and what I like about the conference that's coming up, is that you don't have to be a researcher. You don't have to hold a particular role. You can be interested. So there are presentations which are about practice that could inform future research questions, and then there are presentations about research which could inform practice, and there are people talking about kind of what they do. And the most common thing, the number of times people have said to me, what is this pluralism thing of which you speak? And when you begin to explain it, the number of people who go, oh my goodness, I think that's how I've naturally been working for some time. I've had this training, or my core was this. I mean, my own core training was a person-centered training. And how do you do that? How do you do that barking noise?
I didn't even open my mouth. It's amazing, isn't it?
It's remarkable. So we have that sort of talent on show as
Joys of
well.
homeworking, everybody.
And so it seems to me that there's people at the conference who are already clearly identified as pluralistic, people who are just kind of superficially on the edge, interested, what's this about, a little bit inquisitive, and then there's this bigger group of people who are kind of beginning to identify that that's what they do, and they want to do it more explicitly and more deliberately, I suppose. And so I've just taken over from you. We have a steering group, and you have kind of chaired and facilitated that for the last 3 years, I think it was, and I've just taken over, which is a daunting act to follow, Kate. And I think we're really keen to get more people involved. So I want out of the conference people to come along and think, yeah, I really like this. And come and get involved and help us develop this in a way that's meaningful for practice and our clients.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's a really good point, because I think what I was conscious of just as I was sort of handing over to you was that there is so much potential for growth. There's so much, and there's so many different conversations, and we were having trouble, almost mapping the conversations. And I think that having these conferences is one of the ways that we bring people together, and that, it's not about meeting us, it's about meeting each other.
Yeah.
It's about practitioners talking to practitioners or researchers or students and kind of going, this is how I do things. Because pluralism isn't it's by definition not a fixed model. We don't have fixed ways of doing things.
Yeah, because I've heard, what we've also tried to do in this conference is bring in some more critical voices of pluralism as well, because I think that's really important. We're not kind of all getting together telling ourselves how clever we are and why don't people just catch on. It's like, well, this is a philosophical position and also a practice position, and but we also want people to come in and critique that and shake it a bit. So we've got a panel discussion where we hope to kind of critique what we're doing a little bit. But yeah, people often say, oh, just another model, and it's like, oh no, it's not. Actually, it's not another model. It's a way of working, and it's a deliberate way of working, which I think does speak to a lot of practitioners. And it's not that, oh, this is better than person-centered, or this is better than CBT, this is better than psychodynamic, or whatever model people are trained in. It's like, actually, all those are really important, So I'm very much a humanistic practitioner, probably beyond a purist person-centered now, but very much a humanistic practitioner. But I know people who are working pluralistically come very much from a psychodynamic tradition, and it's like people need different things at different times, and how can we do that collaboratively? So I'm sold. I'll be there.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So just one last question, I guess. What is it that you have a presentation at the conference? What is it you're going to be talking about?
Yes, I'm going to do a couple of things. So we've got the panel on the Friday night, so I'm going to be facilitating that and opening that up to questions. So we've got a number of people on that panel. But what I like, which I'm not involved in, but I'm looking forward to, is John McLeod and Mick Cooper having a dialogue with kind of people who are training currently or who have relatively recently qualified. So it's kind of like, John and Mick who kind of really kind of solidified these ideas around pluralism and kind of founded this kind of this momentum and this shift, talking to people who will be the people who also take it on and develop in the future. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm doing an hour's workshop on, so as you probably know, my area is about working with risk and working with suicide risk, and I've argued for a long while that the current risk approaches, the risk assessment forms and things aren't fit for purpose, and actually we need to be moving back to what we're good at, which is relationship and collaboration. And assuming a client has capacity, ultimately our task with suicidal people is to help them find their way of moving forward, rather than us feeling that we have to do that to them. And so I'm going to do a short demonstration of how to use a keep safe tool with clients within a kind of pluralistic philosophical position, and how pluralism, I think, can really help us shift our work with people who are suicidal. So that's what I'm doing in an hour.
That sounds absolutely amazing, and I think what's really interesting, Andrew, is that you're taking what might be the kind of core therapeutic activities from pluralism and actually widening that out into mental health practice more broadly. And I know there's conversations around that which are kind of emerging. So moving it into social work, into nursing, those kinds of.
That's really exciting. I mean, I know you're based in a multidisciplinary department at Aberdeen, and I did a talk at last year's conference, which is for me. So I'm also a qualified social worker. So I have always come to my work for 30 years from a kind of dual perspective, and I did a talk last year, which is sometimes we don't know how to, either we're not inclined to talk to other professionals, or we don't know how to find a language that best fits. And for me, I think that a pluralistic position has the potential to enable us to work much more collaboratively with other professional groups as well. And you're right. I mean, that's a very live discussion that's going on at the moment about how we can do that more explicitly and deliberately. So yeah, that'll be exciting too.
Lots more dialogue.
Yeah. Well, you know me, never shut up. So anything that gives me a chance for dialogue.
Well, I didn't like to say anything, to be honest.
You didn't get a chance to, did you really? Because you just barked away quietly while I was talking.
I needed to interrupt you somehow. Andrew, this has been really great, and thank you so much for just dropping in this morning for a chat.
Nice to see you, Kate, and come along to the conference, people. Come along. Absolutely. You know, it's by donation. We know that this is a tough time, so you know, just pay what you can afford, and it will be fabulous to see you there.
Yeah, we'll see you there, everyone. Okay.
All right, Kate. Take care.
Bye, Andrew.
Bye.